Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our live stream today. Today's topic is Kickstart Your Cloud Automation Adventure, Your Gateway to Efficiency. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, and I am the head of marketing here at Cloud Institute. If you're not familiar with Cloud Institute, we are a training and coaching company that equips IT teams to confidently deliver on IT projects. We offer personalized coaching with cloud experts and hands-on project-based training to help you with those live projects. And I'm happy to introduce our expert, one of those cloud experts that we mentioned today. That is Zaki Medina. And Zaki is an expert instructor and cloud coach who has coached thousands of aspiring data scientists and engineers. So before I turn it over to Zaki, I want to encourage you to ask questions in the comments, and we'll answer them here at the end of the presentation. We'll be recording this, and it'll be available here on this LinkedIn page immediately afterwards. Also, if you'd like a copy of the slide deck, leave us a comment, and I'll connect with you and get that over to you. Try to keep this about 30 minutes. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Zaki. Take it away.
Thank you so much for the great introduction, Peter. Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled so many of you are with us today, ready to take our deep dive into the world of cloud automation, right? So, just like a compass guides us to our destination, today's webinar is really going to walk us through sort of the what, why, and how of cloud automation. So, buckle up, right? This is probably, a topic that is near and dear to a lot of folks. And one of the things that come up about cloud automation is it's a complicated story, right? And so so freak not, our goal here today is to make cloud automation your ally. And if the term cloud automation feels like an enigma, we're going to take the mystery out of it and turn it into your superpower. So over the next 30 minutes, we're really going to navigate and explore the ways cloud automation can really optimize and accelerate your IT operations, make them smarter, more efficient. We'll even touch upon some of the prominent questions that you may have on why is cloud automation so crucial, where can it bring the most value, and how you can put it to work for your organization today. So, as Peter mentioned, it's always weird talking about myself versus the other subjects. So, I've been around working on cloud for the last 17 years, deployed a bunch of multi-cloud instances. I actually manage both two or three environments today in my day-to-day, separate environments for the same organization, and both have AWS, GCP, and Azure to some degree. So it's sort of at the intersection of retail, healthcare, and e-commerce, online e-commerce and governance as well. So a lot of learnings on that with cloud, as you can imagine. So as we have a jam-packed agenda here today. So before we jump in and look at what the possibilities of cloud automation are, we'll first dive into sort of the why of cloud automation, its importance, and the essential role it plays in today's business world, right? Next, we're going to explore the where, sort of, or the what, and where the areas of the cloud automation. And so that's really defining what the scope of cloud automation typically is, how does it play a role in multi-cloud, what are the different use cases across migrations, operations, security, data management, things of that nature. And then we'll come to the how, where we're going to unwrap the box of tools and technologies that make cloud automation possible. And these are sort of the workhorses that can help us get on the fast track for our cloud automation journey, right? And as always, if you have some questions and comments, please reserve them towards the end. We will have a Q&A at the end. So, let's get the show on the road, as they say. So, what is cloud automation? My answer to you, as someone who's been using it for the past 5 years, it's the best thing since sliced bread, right? So, and I'll preface that by a little thing. So imagine, you're a cockpit of a modern jetliner, right? An airplane. It's filled with countless switches, knobs, and systems that need constant attention. Now imagine if you could automate most of that. That's really the essence of cloud automation. It really simplifies your cloud journey, and all at the same time improves your operational efficiency around that. So, today automation isn't just a buzzword or an optional luxury. It's actually the new normal. It's a necessity. As our businesses scale and evolve, as we are faced with the deluge of data today, IT operations have become increasingly complex. So managing these cloud operations and workloads and tasks, they're not just time consuming, but they're also prone to errors. So that's where cloud automation comes in, can help reduce some of the manual workflows, any kind of manual intervention that we deploy, and also speeds up the processes, minimizes errors, and ultimately it gives our organization kind of the agility that it needs to thrive in today's fast-paced world, right? So if there's one takeaway from this slide is obviously, cloud automation is as awesome as sliced bread, but it's that it's no longer a choice, that it's really a part, an essential part of the blueprint, right? So now, to make cloud automation easier or accessible, cloud service providers have made accessing these resources more and more easier, right? So I'm sure some of you have already using cloud automation or to some degree thinking about it. But when you've had to deploy any resource in the cloud, whether you're configuring a virtual machine or creating virtual machine clusters or containers and virtual networks, and you want to manage the availability and performance, cloud automation ultimately can help you do all of that automatically, right? And so that's the whole value of automating your cloud setup and eliminating all these repetitive manual processes of deploying and managing your cloud workloads and so on. So, you know, moreover, any kind of manual cloud deployment might also result in security vulnerabilities that you can put your company at risk. So that's also a big piece, that doing cloud automation is not going to it's actually going to be better for your security posture. So automation again helps reduce the variability and complexity of your infrastructure and tech stack. For some of you on sort of the software side, very familiar with agile, with DevOps. Guess what? For DevOps to work, you need cloud automation. In fact, we're going to dive into some of that later on in a few slides. There is something called infrastructure as code, or IAC for short, right? We're going to talk about feedback loops, continuous delivery, and how they all rely on cloud automation today. And so, you know, so as I mentioned before, cloud automation, yes, it is the new normal. One quick thing is it makes things possible, like hybrid cloud work, right? Even today, this is an example of hybrid cloud work. Some of you are remote, some of you at work, in the office, some of you are in transition, but wherever you are, the hybrid cloud environments is what making it possible. And a large part of that is the underlying cloud automation, right? So, and anyone that's done hybrid cloud environments know that such environments are very complicated, to say the least. They require an integration of both the on-premise and the public cloud system, right? So that's really where cloud automation can really help us, right? So, you can think of it as, cloud automation tools can really synchronize assets between our local and resources between our local on-premise data centers and cloud resources to make this kind of sync between that possible. Some terminology, I hate using that, but there's a term called cloud bursting. Cloud bursting is just a term. It's the process of moving workloads to the cloud when the application exceeds local resources, right? So you basically run everything on premise, and if you need to spill over or overflow, cloud is there to be that sort of relief valve, right? So, again, the use of cloud automation and hybrid cloud also enables disaster recovery scenarios with remote site monitoring and so on. And so, what I want to do is then double click into the next few slides where we will talk about auto provisioning cloud resources and how cloud automation can mitigate cloud sprawl. So, double click into this. So imagine you're a you're an IT professional, you want to choose, you've been tasked to choose the right virtual machine for the job, and it's tough because you've got many different choices and unique parameters, right? Any cloud vendor, cloud service provider you pick, they have a myriad of options in their virtual machine compute options, right? So which one do you choose? You have to balance between cost and performance, right? Guess what? You can now delegate the tasks of right sizing and auto scaling to an instance selection algorithm, right? It's very, and cloud automation can basically help you choose the best instance types that meets the requirement of your application whenever your cluster needs extra nodes, right? And maybe your workloads need to run at maximum performance and minimal cost. So cloud automation is here, right? So an example would be maybe we're running our app today in or in a container, right? And maybe this container is managed by a Kubernetes solution or cluster. Guess what? We can use automated cloud provisioning for as an example of cloud automation to help with that. So this is kind of a graph. It shows you, at 1541, the application starts experiencing a surge of traffic. Then what happens is the tool starts creating new instances or pods, Kubernetes pods, to help to handle it. And because they have no place to run, we need new CPU cores. So within 2 minutes, our automated solution basically adds in, let's just say, a 16 core node automatically. And then a minute later at 1545, some traffic appears in the application and the tool adds an extra 8 core nodes within 1 minute so the application can handle the traffic. So once all the traffic is gone, the solution instantly retires 2 nodes to avoid any resource waste. All of this is done automatically and through the awesomeness of cloud automation, right? So just a quick way of how quickly it can help and motivate us to deploy. In fact, the number one reason why people leave the cloud, and I've mentioned this in previous live streams and webinars and blog posts, is that is the cost, right? Cost is a big indicator. So guess what? Cloud automation can help us shut down unused instances and processes to help reduce our cloud costs, and thus we're able to track any cloud deployment instances in such fashion. In fact, many teams, my own team, anytime we are faced with orphan instances, basically there's like no ownership, or maybe we're battling shadow IT projects that are poorly executed and accounted for, any kind of zombie infrastructure that's still active and is generating a monthly bill. Guess what? And it's giving us zero value to our organization. Cloud automation can help streamline and identify these zombie IT infrastructure, these cloud resources that are running, and address the problem before it snowballs into a massive cloud bill at the end of the month, right? So, there's a bit of stats here on some of the areas in cloud spend and wastage, as well as underutilization of cloud assets, right? It's still an ongoing thing.
It seems we might have just lost Zachy for a second, but I think he's back.
It's just an internet blip, you know.
No problem. Take it away.
Happens. So I actually have, interestingly enough, I have both dual internet connectivity, and so it's again another automation process in real time that helped me just make the shift here. So that's really interesting. Um, there was a comment about adding 8 cores. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just go back quickly and I'll explain that one more time, hopefully. So basically, we have an application. It's experiencing a surge of traffic. And basically, now with our automation in place, so we assume we have automation in place, it's going to spin up a bunch of new cores, right? So within a few minutes, where we've added, let's say, 16 cores, right? It's our CPU cluster, right? So we've added 16 cores. And then at the 1545 mark, which you see is number 3 here, there's some more traffic that's appearing. Guess what? We now have to add some more compute power, right? So we add maybe an extra 8 core node, and we do this within under a minute, so the application can handle the traffic. And then once the traffic is there, maybe it's the lunchtime traffic, right? People are browsing, and then once the traffic is gone, the cloud automation workflow will instantly retire the nodes that we don't need to avoid any resource waste, right? So hopefully that answers the question there. So as we mentioned, so we get the what and the why of cloud, but what is that cloud automation? Seems like a very nebulous topic, right? So so what I've done is I've tried to divide this into sort of these kind of 3 pillars, right? You've got cloud infrastructure, we've got cloud operations, and data management, didn't have enough room there, and cloud security. So under cloud infrastructure, these are organizations that rely on cloud-based infrastructure. They want to automate as much as they can all the repetitive tasks to avoid any misconfigurations, reduce manual errors, save IT costs, and improve efficiency. So some of the use cases that come up, right, is first up is migrations, right? So guess what? You're moving your data to the cloud, and sometimes it can feel like you're moving houses, right? In fact, it's more complex than that in some cases. So it's not just a simple lift and shift, right? It's about ensuring that everything works seamlessly post move. And that's where automation helps. It ensures smooth, error free migrations, things of that nature. In fact, a lot of migrations, majority of migrations, I can, are automated to some fashion or have a significant portion of automation built into them as part of their overall workflow. Next up is infrastructure as code, right? Or IAC. So this is a favorite of developers because developers love this. So basically imagine infrastructure as code where you automate the provisioning of IT infrastructure where we use code, right? We enable organizations to deliver cloud apps by, and we're doing it through code. Like we're running this on the command line interface. The advantage of this is it's quicker, faster, reduce costs, minimizes risk. In fact, there's a bunch of tools, and we'll go to some of them like Puppet, Ansible, Terraform, right? That can automatically provision individual elements or even the entire infrastructure in cloud, right? So then we have containers, right? So containers, again, they facilitate a common operational model for cloud native applications across environments. And this goes for both public, private, and hybrid clouds. So again, most likely you're going to be using some level of container orchestration. Common one is Kubernetes, right? So like for instance, if we use, you can use a managed Kubernetes service in Azure, like Azure Kubernetes Service, or in Google, like in GCP or Google Kubernetes Engine, or even in AWS, like Amazon Elastic Kubernetes, for basically automating your deployment, management, and scaling of containerized applications. And finally, we've got DevOps, right? So as I mentioned, DevOps teams use automation tools all the time to limit any kind of manual intervention that they may have. This allows them to facilitate feedback loops between the dev and the ops teams, right? And so then they can deploy iterative updates faster in production, right? This is basically continuous integration, continuous deployment, CI/CD, right? And then this automation in DevOps really encapsulates sort of the entire DevOps pipeline, right? Of CI/CD and even continuous testing, right? So you have continuous integration, continuous deployment or continuous scaling, and continuous testing as well. So that's sort of the cloud infrastructure. Then we look at sort of the operations side. So within operations, these are your day-to-day tasks, right? I'm deploying updates, maybe monitoring performance of some of my cloud resources, and overall managing them. So that's where cloud automation can handle it all, right? It's going to help you free your team's time for more strategic tasks. And organizations also at the same time have started deploying strong data management policies, right? So you'll hear things like ML ops, data ops, secure ops, sec ops, right? Those are some of the things that come in as part of that automation story, right? So again, cloud automation may seem like a nebulous topic, but if you break it down into these pillars, this may help as you go in. So as I mentioned, so there's common things like resource management. There's common things like cloud storage, right? Like when we're expanding our cloud, uh, our data pools, are we using any kind of object storage like Google Cloud Storage, Amazon S3, or Azure Blob Storage? You know, it's going to help us practically store limitless amounts of data. But then our IT teams will only expose data within those storage buckets that they need to, right? And that's all automatically ensured that there is the right level of security and provisioning workflows and processes and governance is all followed. Then we have obviously cloud backups, right? So you could just automate the whole backup. I would say cloud backups are probably the oldest form of automation, right? They've been happening even before cloud. They've been doing it in sort of the enterprise world, pre-cloud. So cloud backups again, no surprise there. With cloud automation, we can automatically back up and do restore of our data and infrastructure periodically. Then there's monitoring and logging, right? We're regularly looking at the auditing and monitoring of our cloud infrastructure and applications, right? And all of this kind of generates a lot of logging data, telemetry data. It's actually challenging for organizations to handle, right? So, when you think about leveraging logging tools, let's say maybe I'm using Google, like GCP's Google Cloud Logging, Azure Monitor, or AWS is centralized, right? I can easily store and search, analyze, and monitor and get alerts on any of the logging data and events, right? So this again helps with productivity. It helps contain any misconfigurations and security threats much quicker. And then finally, cloud security. As I mentioned, security is a big part of why a lot of organizations actually go into cloud automation, because it just helps reduce the security footprint. A lot of that is automated, and always there'll be checks and balances by the automated tools to ensure that you have the latest patches and so on. So when multi-cloud is used, and so I'll give a little spiel about multi-cloud. So, a lot of at the beginning of multi-cloud, for another organization I worked for, we had a lot of manual errors, right? And so we found it challenging to monitor and secure different cloud-based systems. And so cloud automation came in and helped, and it helped us automate sort of the configuration of all these different resources. So let's say you want, you know what you need to do for all the firewalls, but how do you do them across GCP, AWS, and Azure, and even other cloud of providers, right? So we were able to standardize some of those practices, because that's in the end, that's what security and SecOps is. It's just best practices and ensuring that there is consistency across those, right? So, again, things like authentication and authorization, right? Organizations, they can leverage cloud-based directory services, including Microsoft Azure Active Directory or AWS Identity and Access Management. So all of these are basically used to manage and control user access. It's actually the one that as the organization, is on the hook for, right? So organizations have to really ensure they really understand their AA workflows and processes, right? Or authentication and authorization, if you can catch that. So again, part of this could be, how do we use cloud automation to help us automate our onboarding, offboarding, and user access audits easily and securely, right? So those are some of the examples. And then finally, with endpoint security, is how do we deploy automatic threat detection tools like Amazon Guard Duty, Azure Defender, to monitor our cloud automation software environment and automatic alerts and threat response processes, right? And then all of this is being used to ensure that our network and infrastructure, right, whenever we need to do any kind of provisioning at the network level, at the connectivity level, we have and maintain adequate security and functionality, right? Example is just using Azure today, using network security groups, right, to allow and deny any inbound or outbound network traffic to and from Azure resources, as an example. And so, this is all great. Now we've looked at sort of the scope, but then when we look at, multi-cloud is really where I would say cloud automation shines. In fact, it's like you can't really do multi-cloud without cloud automation. It's like trying to get somewhere. Maybe you want to get to Europe, but you only have access to a bike, right? Yes, you could theoretically make the trip. It's going to take you very long, and multiple modes of transportation, right? If you want to avoid a plane. So multi-cloud, it's basically a match made in heaven, right? Uh, if you're dipping into your toes into multi-cloud, cloud automation is going to be your secret weapon. Why? Because cloud automation is going to help you maintain consistency for your workloads, for your processes across all your multi-cloud environments, right? And so, almost anything can be automated in a cloud environment if you think about it, which is great and it's fundamental. But if we want to automate, let's say, our application lifecycle management, or ALM, all the way down to our server or service provisioning, to security, to management, to scaling, to failure connection, all of these can be automated, right? So, and there's even a concept like automation in the cloud. It kind of focuses on some of, they call these the timeless issues of reliability, availability, and scalability, RAS. I'm kind of dating myself back, so with automation, it's very easy to make sure these environments are consistent, they're kept in their proper state, and they maintain self-healing systems, right? And so, again, many use cases for cloud automation. The big the big aha moment for me with cloud automation a couple of years ago was with deploying a microservice architecture and leveraging Kubernetes. Yes, Kubernetes is a cloud automation tool to basically reduce any single points of failure, right? For that application. So that was really powerful because at that point, it's now going to allow us to scale our services up and down when needed by rapidly deploying new systems and tearing it down unnecessary ones, right? So, definitely make cloud automation a part of your multi-cloud strategy, right? Whenever you want to make the decision to go there, it's just going to make it easier and how to deal with it. Automation can also minimize the differences between these environments, right? So it's going to provide sort of that consistent abstraction layer that bridges the individual cloud providers. Some of you will say, oh, maybe can I use the tools of one cloud provider on another one? To some degree, there are, but there are also vendor agnostic tools that are available as well, which we'll look at in sort of the next slide after this one. So, as I mentioned before, in cloud automation use cases that we have a ton, right? You're going to find, again, this is not a definitive list. We have infrastructure as a code. We've defined that. We use code or instead of physical devices to organize your system data. We do workload management, make sure we do infrastructure identity management, application deployment, right? As well as monitoring and remediation. And the most important one that's coming up is data discovery and classification, right? So cloud automation rests on the fact that cloud servers can notice and extract specific data from a wide variety of information and manage those resources on a larger scale. So if the task gets repeated frequently, you'll see that. So you can use data discovery type of cloud automation to discover all cloud-based information for your cloud environment. So that's really powerful. And as I promised, some cloud automation tools, right? The how we've tackled the what and the why and the what and the why. How do you put cloud automation to work for you? Again, this is not a deep dive into the tools. We actually have our next live stream next week to dive into these. But these, in the realm of cloud infrastructure automation, these are the pivotal players. They're going to help you with your setup, deployment, and management, right? GitHub Actions is what I use, but you can either use GitHub CI as well. It helps you build workflows, test and deploy code automatically. Um, and then you can also consider tools like Terraform, infrastructure as a code that allows you to define and manage your infrastructure across multiple cloud platforms. There's Kubernetes for deployment, scaling, and managing containerized applications. If you're using Kubernetes already, you're already one step ahead in the automation game because Kubernetes isn't an automation solution since it doesn't automate all the cloud, but still, even if you're using it, you're still using it to orchestrate and manage your containers. Then there's Ansible, which is a powerful IT automation tool. You've got Puppet, robust configuration management. You have Cloudify, which is sort of a versatile multi-cloud cloud automation tool, right? And then we'll look at all of these, and then we have our regular ones, right, from Azure Automation and Google Cloud Manager, AWS Cloud Formation. All of these basically can help create, correlate, provision, and manage third-party resources, their cloud resources in a predictable and orderly manner, right? One quick note, sometimes the question gets asked, hey, there's a common mix-up between the terms cloud automation and cloud orchestration, and they're kind of used interchangeably. So very simple analogy is a musician in an orchestra, right? So think of cloud automation as the musician in an orchestra, where it's about automating individual tasks or workflows. Maybe it's a flutist playing the perfect note or a drummer keeping the beat. Whereas with cloud orchestration, on the other hand, it's like the conductor of the orchestra. It's coordinating all the various cloud automation tasks, coordinating them, making them function, work together in a seamless workflow and process. So it's ensuring the flutist, drummer, all other musicians are working in harmony to create beautiful music. In our place, a wonderful, humming cloud environment that's automated and so on. And then, so getting started. So quick question on getting started. Really, again, we're here to help you. I would say the first step is start with a vision, what you want to achieve. Are you looking to save time, improve consistency, enhance security? Have these objectives in mind. Next, identify the tasks and workflows that you want automated. And note that not everything should be automated, so pick your battles wisely. So think about repetitive tasks, complex workflows, areas prone to human error, and then finally choose your tools. As we discussed, there are numerous automation tools. Pick the one that meets your needs and goals and aligns to your budget. And then finally, start small and scale. And then you don't have to automate everything at once. Start with a single process, learn from it, and then gradually grow your automation efforts. Remember, it's a journey, not a destination, and it's all about continuous improvement and evolution. Um, and then, some of the things that come up with cloud automation is preparing your team, right? A lot of people are scared of cloud automation. What does it do for my job? What does it do for this? Well, it's not going to change your job. It's just going to make it easier. You're not doing the more tedious things. I would say organizations that have fostered a culture of learning where you're helping your team, supporting your team to adapt to these changes, so that and encouraging them to embrace new tools and technologies, and investing in training, investing in coaching, and ensuring that they are able to take the knowledge they gain and use it on the job effectively. And then again, changes the process. So be patient, celebrate the wins, however small, and ensure you have the right change management tool, and so on. And so, one of the things that come up around this is the need that there's a lot of challenges with this, right? So there will be a few bumps in the road. Again, resistance to change. There could be a lack of knowledge or training. How do I upskill my team in a meaningful time? How do I bring in an outside expertise? Or the technical challenges that I face. These challenges in cloud automation could be complex. Don't panic. Guess what? Actually, Cloud Institute can help. We have our coaches that can help sort of jumpstart your cloud um, automation journey as well. So, we'll have a few words about that. But, just to wrap up very quickly here, time flies. So we've covered sort of the what and the why and the how of cloud automation. We've explored some tools, discussed some challenges. Now it's your turn to take, and ask questions if you like to elaborate on anything. And I'd like to thank you all for your time today. I hope you found this live stream informative and enlightening. Remember, cloud automation isn't just a trend, it's your fuel for business growth and innovation in 2023. So let's jump into Q&A. Peter, anything coming up?
Yeah, we've got a few questions here. We'll try to get through pretty quickly. So the first one, how does cloud automation differ from traditional IT automation?
It's a great question. So cloud automation focuses on sort of, the cloud, right? Whereas, when effectively implemented, cloud automation saves us time and money. It's faster, more secure, more scalable than doing things manually, and so on. Whereas other type of IT automation, is just IT automation, right? Cloud automation allows IT teams to focus on higher level work that is more closely aligned with your organization's goals and so on. So
Okay, makes sense. Next up, how does cloud automation impact the role of IT professionals?
that's a great question. I get asked that a lot. In fact, a lot of people say, "Hey, if automation comes in, what happens to my role?" Right? Well, every time cloud automation comes in, you have to look at the IT organization as a whole. It's going to change the infrastructure and operations department. In fact, automation rose in response to the digital skills shortage that organization faces, and so an organization wanted to deliver digital services faster. So it was not a matter of replacing IT professionals, but rather changing the nature of their daily tasks, removing some of the repetitive stuff, and then making those automated. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, I think it does, and it kind of ties into the next question. Am I potentially automating myself out of a job by setting up these services? So I think you touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, the nature of your job will change, which is good. You don't want to be doing the manual, tedious stuff that is prone to errors, right? You want to be rather, to get those off of your plate and so on. So
All right, next up, we have I'm in a multi-cloud setup. Am I better off using vendor agnostic apps? Can I use the same automations on different platforms, or do they need to be remade? So I guess that goes back to the slide you were showing with
yes,
vendor
yeah.
specific. Yeah.
It actually depends, and we'll talk a little bit about this in our next live stream. But the answer is most tools will allow you, even vendor specific one like AWS CloudFormation, will allow you to use multi-cloud setups. as well, right? Even if it's not AWS. But then you have Cloudify and others like Terraform and Pulumi. They will also allow you to use they're vendor agnostic tools, but they'll also do the multi-cloud setup as well. So it all depends, and it depends on your team, what they're comfortable with. Every tool, there's a learning curve with it.
All right, fantastic. Well, if we do have more questions, we'll try to get to them offline, but we do want to respect your time, and I know we're a little bit over already, so we'll let you go. But first, we want to let you know that we do offer training for all the major cloud platforms that do get into this automation. So one example is our Google Cloud Platform Associate Cloud Engineer Certification Bootcamp that includes labs and one-on-one coaching, and it's just $188. I'll drop the link for that in the chat here, but there's an even better option, especially if you're looking at multi-cloud. If you subscribe to our monthly or annual coaching, you get access to all of our training and labs at no additional cost. So coaching starts at just $64 a month. So that's the best way if you're serious about advancing your cloud career. So Zach, before we let you go, any final thoughts there?
I would say cloud coaching, take advantage of that, because I really encourage you, if you're serious about advancing your career, you want to reach out and get that one-on-one mentorship. It could compress your time to get to your destination from months to weeks even, right? So definitely, we look to hope you can join us again. We're covering cloud automation tools in our next live stream next Wednesday. So do stay tuned for that.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I just went ahead and put that in the chat so you guys can see those next events. But yeah, please do send us a message if you'd like to be notified of those upcoming events, and we'll add you to our list. We do have more, as you said, the 21st of June at noon Eastern. Zach will be back to talk about mastering cloud mastery, dive into automation tools. So we hope you can join us for that. But thank you for your time today, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.